All right, we are started there. I'm going to go ahead and get that muted. Guys, welcome to the show. We are live for episode 2 of our restoration industry book review. We are going to be reviewing Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I've got some great guests with me here today. I've got Ken Strecker from Just Roofs and Gutters out in Denver, Colorado. I've got Eric Oberembt of D&M Roofing in Omaha, Nebraska, and Des Moines, Iowa. And we've also got Joseph Hughes from Contractor Dynamics. And he's just jumping back in here. So we are going to kick this show off real quick with a brief little clip from the book that we read. This was an awesome book. I really appreciate Eric's recommendation for us to read this. But I want to go ahead and share just a real quick clip for you so you can kind of see what this is all about if you haven't read it yourself. So here that is.
A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The process of habit formation begins with trial and error. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you're not sure how to solve it. Like Thorndike's cat, you are just trying things out to see what works. Neurological activity in the brain is high during this period. You are carefully analyzing the situation and making conscious decisions about how to act. You are taking in tons of new information and trying to make sense of it all. The brain is busy learning the most effective course of action. Occasionally, like a cat pressing on a lever, you stumble across a solution. You're feeling anxious and you discover that going for a run calms you down. Or you're mentally exhausted from a long day of work and you learn that playing video games relaxes you. You're exploring, and then bam, a reward. After you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did I do right before that? This is the feedback loop behind all human behavior. Try, fail, learn, try differently. With practice, the useless movements fade away and the useful actions get reinforced.
All right, so that was our brief clip from the book. I want to jump right into this. Like I said, Eric Oberembt was actually the one who recommended this book for myself and for the show. I know he recommended it to Joseph. I recommended it to Ken. It's kind of spread throughout the industry. From Eric, from wherever you got it. Eric, I want to start off with you here real quickly. Tell me a little bit about just generally your thoughts on this book.
Hey, Matt. So this book for me was a game changer because it made me really sit down and think about what I was doing, when I was doing it, and why I was doing it. Before, you'd do things kind of like that excerpt said. You would do things and bam, reward. But I would never take the time to actually go back and figure out how I got there and how I would, continuously get that, reward. And there was always things that I wanted to do. And funny enough, one of them was reading more, right? I kind of always got made fun of. It's kind of an ongoing joke with a lot of the groups that I'm in is that I don't read. I always had an excuse. I didn't have time or whatever. Like I used to read all the time when I was younger. And then it's like, I got work to do. I have things to do. I got people to manage. I have, all these things going on. I never had time to actually sit down and read. And so one of the challenges in a circle that I'm in was that we were doing a book a month, and one of the challenges was to read this book, and it was to read every day like 20 pages, no more than that, just 20 pages every day. Pick a time in the morning, and do it. So you're not biting off more than you think you can chew, and you're not like, oh, I got to set aside 45 minutes, and if I can't do full 45, then I'm just not going to do it at all, and that was the mentality that I would get into, because if I couldn't set aside all of that time, I'd be like, well, I'll do it some other time. But if I sit down and say, I'm going to read 15, 20 pages, whatever that number is, I could commit to that because I could get up 30 minutes earlier. The house is quiet. There's no screaming kid. The wife's still sleeping. Nobody's bothering me. I make my coffee and I sit down and I read 20 pages every day. And I committed to doing that every day. And then what was funny was this was the book that I was doing it with. And then it gave me all these other things with the habit stacking and the, all that kind of stuff. And then as you read it, you realize how much it translates into business and sales reps. And you know what I mean? Because reps are notorious for having awful habits, right? And they lose, you lose, tens of or hundreds of jobs that fell through the cracks because you didn't do your follow-up properly, or you didn't, go into your CRM or your tracking software for all your clients. And, you didn't do that every single night at 9 o'clock or whatever. And so they, my guys would get frustrated and be like, oh, I forgot to do that. And I read this book and I'm like, well, what do you do right after dinner? Well, I sit around. I'm like, take 40 minutes every night after dinner, do this. And then, and so I started implementing this, and then I just made everybody in my company read it. And I was like, look, this is what we're going to live by. Like, there's 2 books that this business lives by. It's Raving Fans and Atomic Habits. Like, those are the 2 books. If we are excellent at those 2 things, we're going to kill everybody. Like, we're going to be the best because of those 2 things. So it's really transformed how I run my life, but it's transformed how I run my business even more.
That's awesome, man. I enjoyed seeing a lot of those same things. I know from this book, they talked about the 2-minute drill, I think he called it, which was, something that a habit that you're trying to adopt. Just do it for 2 minutes every day and just build that habit. It's not hard to do something for 2 minutes, and so that you can establish that habit. And then once you have that habit, it's easier just to do it longer. And so I definitely understand that. I relate to you a lot in the sense that I'm not a reader, or this book kind of addresses the very fact of telling yourself, "Oh, I'm not that type of person."
Right.
And so you already defeat yourself by saying, "I'm not that type of person," when you absolutely can be. And if you start with that mindset, you can develop those habits. So for me, this podcast that I'm doing was something I had intentions to be a reader, and I have accountability because I've got a show planned every week, and I better read that book for the podcast. So certainly understand that. I want to flip over real quick to Joseph. I think we've got your audio and everything working now. Tell me, obviously we talked about you run Contractor Dynamics, and tell me, so your business is a little bit different than us as contractors, but tell me how this book has maybe some things that have impacted your business, some things that you're using.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, to me, I don't think it really matters what type of business it is, right? We've got a team, we've got sales, we've got marketing, we've got fulfillment, if you want to call it production. So personally, I mean, I've always been a big reader. I'm a big fan of habits. I read the book after Eric recommended it, after we did a little interview a couple months ago this summer, and just the simplicity of it, the compound effect. Another book I read years ago, probably like 6-7 years ago, is The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And it's this concept of like, you do something every day, you might not see the immediate payoff there, but it's the compound effect, like interest in the bank. It's going to compound over time, right? If you have a penny on day one and you double that penny every single day for 30 days, you're going to end up with over $5 million just by doubling a penny. That penny, 2 pennies, 3 pennies, 4 pennies, 8 pennies doesn't seem like much that first week, right? But you can see the compound effect. So in business, I'm a fan of course, having targets. You want to have those revenue targets and profit and number of clients, whatever you want to have. But I am more a fan of process goals. Like, this is what we want every week, right? We want to get X amount of calls every week. We want to do we want to do a piece of content every day. And as long as we do that and trust the process and not just kind of set it and forget it, but do those things. Every week we're reviewing, how did that work? Did that not work? What worked? What didn't? Let's tweak some things. But just trusting that process and just putting in those daily, those weekly habits, it's going to get you to the target that you want. Conversely, if you just set targets and you don't have any daily habits to support it, or daily action items, or going through your CRM, like Eric was saying, then you're not going to hit those targets. So my opinion and experience, those daily habits are much, much more important. Follow-up is huge, as we all know. Like everyone has gaps in follow-up. So that's one thing that, if it's not scheduled, it just doesn't happen. Just like working out, or like Eric mentioned, reading a book, if it's not scheduled, it doesn't happen. So, another on that topic, another way that it's helped our business is that everything we do is in the calendar. Everything's scheduled. The team knows when we're meeting. We have recurring meetings, when we're doing these things, and we try not to bother each other, honestly, when we're not, scheduled to meet. If you have a question, it's not I'm going to hit them up on Facebook Messenger, or send them a text right away. Of course, there's those urgent things that pop up, but we try to save things for when we have those in the calendar, so we can, do some productive work in between meetings and whatnot. So.
Very good. I appreciate that perspective there. And last but not least, Ken, I know a lot of the people that are in my network are in the network of both you, Joe, and Eric, and we know a lot of the same people. And it's funny, I think Ken is in his own little world over here. But Ken's somebody that I've known for, at least online, for probably a couple of years now, and is just a phenom in the residential world. He does, like me, he focuses on those referral relationships. He's by appointment only, and he's got even on his hat there, both cheeks all in. So, I'm kind of, I feel good that I get to introduce all these people to just a great guy. But Ken, can you share with me, I know I kind of pointed you to this book, and we've already talked about it just a little bit. What are some of the things, as someone who's out in the field every day, that's working with customers, that's doing kind of normal activities, what does this look like for you? What were some of the gems that you found?
Well, a lot of it is the habit stacking of doing things on, once I do this, then I do this right away. Giving myself enough time in between inspections to actually go ahead and hammer out a report, send the email that I promised I'm going to send them. With everything, especially in construction, the worst enemy that you can have for a customer is just not to communicate with them. So good, bad, or otherwise, if you're telling them what's going on before it happens versus after, you're winning. So, and just setting that up, that becomes that daily habit, and it does become a set it and forget it sort of thing, to where you don't even have to think about it. You're unconscious. The minute you're done with dinner, it's time to get into and update your quotes, do what you need to do, set your day for the next day, and be ready to go. I know you, Matt, are a big workout guy as well. So getting that in, developing a good habit to start your day is super important for me, because then it just sets my energy, and gets you ready to go, so that you can get out, and whether your day is 5 inspections and nobody calls unexpectedly, or you start with what you think is going to be an office day, and then you're out running. Either way, you're prepared for it and able to adjust to it.
Very good. So guys, tell me a little bit more. I know we've kind of talked about, here's some things that we grabbed from the book. Is there something, I'm going to skip around. I'm going to get back over to Joseph here. Is there something that you've taken from the book since you read it here, which I know has been real recently, and started actually putting into place, that you've seen gains and you've seen it be effective for you?
Something that I took from the book, let's see. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my notes here. One of the things that, what is it called? What's it called? A habit tracker. fumbling around there. So,
No, you're right.
you know, there's accountability of showing up for a weekly show, which is awesome. But there's also those small things we do every day that, you know, James says, oh, you can have a contract with someone else, maybe your spouse, maybe your personal trainer. Like, I'm going to pay you $100 if I don't show up or whatever the situation is. For me, I'm a visual guy, so I'm actually doing this 10x push-up challenge in August. And it's pretty simple. In addition to my normal daily workouts, it's 10 push-ups times the day of the month. So August 27th today, 270 push-ups. Tomorrow, 280. The first week is pretty easy. You're 10, 20, 30, 40. This week is like, man, my shoulders are on fire. But I made this Excel spreadsheet and I printed it out and it sits on my nightstand. And every night, actually immediately after I finish, if I'm home or when I get home, I will write that in the sheet there, 270, and then I have a column for how I feel or how I felt. And I always try to put something positive there, like I felt like a beast, or I feel like, you know, I could have done 300 or whatever, just to get that like positive reinforcement. And for me, it sounds so silly, but I get excited about going to that little spreadsheet on my nightstand and like putting in the number there. And then I also know I go to bed. It's happened a couple of times. I'm getting into bed and I look at that spreadsheet. I'm like, damn, I didn't do my push-ups today. So I'm like 10 o'clock at night, you know, I'm down there, you know, doing 200 push-ups in the bedroom, and my wife she's used to it by now. So, but yeah, having that visual right there, so you can't forget, the constant reminder, that's one thing personally that has helped me. Yeah.
Awesome. I wanted to share for myself. I know Ken talked about this. I think the habit stacking is something that I recognized. There were some things in my process and in my life that I already habit stack. I think all of us do. We kind of build those things together. But also that's been a powerful tool for me in what I'm doing and what I'm teaching. That's, of course, teach restoration referral system. And that was one of the things that I realized was that I was teaching habit stacking without knowing what habit stacking was. And so I would tell guys, hey, after you put your ladder on your truck, you start up your AC. Before you pull away from that house, you're going to do X, Y, Z. And I think those things can be so powerful to make sure that you're consistently doing something. If you remember to call that insurance agent of your customer 1 out of 5 times, you're not going to be very effective. If you do it every single time, because every single time that I inspect a roof, I have to put my ladder back and I have to leave. Well, if that's my trigger, then I know. Same thing goes for doing my inspections. I know I have to do my elevation photos before I climb my ladder. And if I start climbing my ladder, I get that gut check and go, oh, hold on, I got to do this. And same thing at the top of the ladder. And once I get on the roof. And so I think that one principle is just so huge in this book that there's so many ways that you can use it. So many, and that's just one of many of the aspects of this book. But like Eric said, if you have, just what's in here, if you guys are halfway utilizing the stuff that's in here across your business, I think this book was $20, something like that. I'm a consultant. I'll tell you, before you go spend thousands of dollars on a consultant, go spend $20 on each of your guys and buy them this book and make them read it. That'll be a lot cheaper and you'll get a lot out of it. And then sign up for a consultant, right? And marketing training and all this sort of stuff. But really don't want this to be a sales pitch, but really can't encourage people enough to take a look at that. And one of the things that I was learning was don't define yourself in a negative way for instance, I'm not a reader. Okay. I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Last week was episode 1, right? This was the first book that I read cover to cover since my junior year of high school, which is 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll let that out there. I am hosting a book review podcast, and I am reading one book after another, and I love it, and I can do it because I stopped telling myself, you're not a reader. You can't, that's not your thing. So guys, even if you don't consider yourself to be a reader, take that jump of confidence and pick up a book. Next week, and we're going to get back into this, but I just want to touch on next week. We're going to be doing Level the Playing Field, which is written by Steve Patrick, and it is absolutely free. He will send that to you for free. So you don't have the excuse that you can't afford it, you can't pay for it. I want you guys to get more education and start just growing as individuals, growing as businesses. Eric, I'll flip back over to you. Anything that you've seen either from you or from your guys that they've taken from this book to expand what they're capable of?
Well, with the guys, I mean, the habit stacking that you were talking about, that was really a big part of what I was saying earlier about them scheduling out what they're doing when they're doing it, so they actually get all those, those follow-ups done and the cleaning up of their spotio and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing that I kind of wanted to revisit a little bit with a different phrase that really sticks with me, and I got to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Jake Bennington. He was the one, he preaches this in that circle that I was telling you about. Consistency over intensity. And I think that's what this all embodies, is consistency over intensity. And the best analogy for it obviously is going to the gym, right? But it translates to everything that we do. But if you translate it to going to the gym, for instance, we all wake up, like I go every single day, 8 o'clock. I meet with my trainer 3 days a week. I'm there by myself the other 2, but he's still there. So he's holding me accountable just because he's there, because I feel like an ass if he's there and I don't show up, you know what I mean, type of thing. So at least I have that. But even if I don't feel like going, we all don't feel like going, certain days. But I know that if I show up and I'm sick or whatever, and if I put in any effort whatsoever, I was still there and I still did it. And if you go over the course of a year and you have 50 of those half workouts, let's say, right? And you add up all your workouts at the end of the year, you still got 25 more full workouts in, right? And that really stuck with me, because we all know like how hard it is to come back. Like, you miss a class. Like I was notorious for this. Like I didn't go to class, like college, like no. It was very random that I ever showed up before I quit. But it's the same thing. Like if you miss the gym or you miss a meeting or whatever it is, 2 or 3 days in a row, it's like, oh, now I really don't want to go back. Maybe I'll just take the rest of the week off and I'll start back up on Monday. Right? Or that diet that you're doing. And you're like, well, I ate like garbage today. I had a pizza. So I guess, you know what? We'll just restart it again on Monday. But if you have that consistency rather the intensity of like, and you got that big gusto, that you're killing it on Monday, but you get a little tired by Friday. But if you're still there and you're doing it every single day, again, it goes back to being the reader thing. It becomes part of you and it becomes part of who you are. And now I'm an athlete, or you know what I mean? Like whatever you want to label yourself, then you are that thing now and you identify with it. And I think identifying with it because of that consistency, even if it is less than your normal intensity, you're still there and you're still putting in the time, you're still getting something done, and it wasn't a waste of a day, And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest thing I grind into my guys is they don't want to go out and knock doors, right? Because they're like, well, I don't want to put in 4.5 hours tonight. Well, go put in 2, because if you add up, if you're not feeling it, if you still have 3 days that you put in 2.5, that's 8 hours. And if you went that whole week and you didn't have those 8 hours, maybe that's 7 deals you didn't sign because you weren't out for those 7 hours, or 8 hours or whatever it is. But you're like, well, I'm not feeling up to it. It's going to be dark in like 2 hours. And, and if you get rid of that, you know, and you're like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to put in the time. That time adds up. You know, I think Joe was saying that too, but like that time adds up. And at the end, those pennies add up to 5 million, you know? And I think that there's a million different ways to say the same stuff. And that's what we're doing. But it all comes together, and it makes such a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. Ken, I want to go back over to you. Tell me really just anything you want to add to the conversation here. What are your thoughts?
Well, to add on what Eric said is, I think you also tend to start focusing more detailed on every little detail, because it's 1%. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And the trajectory, as you mentioned in the book, if you take off from LA and you're off just 1 degree trying to go to New York, you end up in Miami because of that course of time. So it's very easy to put yourself on autopilot, and this keeps you. That book really has opened my eyes to go. Just keep an eye on where you are moment by moment, and that same mentality of, are you getting better or are you getting worse? There is no same. So you got to do one or the other. And this really makes you do that.
Awesome. Well, guys, we're kind of getting near the end of this here. I wanted to kind of throw it back to everybody here. I know we've talked a lot about this book here. Tell me, what is your habit, right? Or habit of reading, and how has that affected your life, your career? What have you seen there? Anybody else?
I'll jump in here. So I've gone through periods of my life where I'm a voracious reader, where I'm reading a ton of books and plowing through them, and my Amazon wish list is a mile long, and I've got a stack of them I'm a big like real paperback or hardcover book guy for a couple different reasons. So I've got like a stack on my nightstand. This year I've been a little bit more intentional on reading a few books and actually implementing them, right? So we can all read like Atomic Habits or any book and kind of get that dopamine rush and feel good about that and get all motivated. But I'm a big like highlighter. I'll take notes and I'll go back and actually implement those things and see how I'm doing. So that's my habit. I have a morning reading habit similar to what Eric was talking about. I read every morning. I do 10 pages. So you're talking about 20 pages, like 10 pages. You can definitely find time to do that. And then I read at night, and I read something a little bit lighter at night in bed to kind of, help me wind down and turn the brain off a little bit. But yeah, I think it's not about how many books you read, which is good for you, Matt, because you just read 2 books in the past decade. It's about
2 decades.
All right, 2 decades. Yeah, that's a good pace, 1 per decade. So it's about it's about actually implementing them. Same thing in business. We learn something, we go to a conference, we go like subscribe, we go sign up for Matt's deal, and it's not about just showing up, it's about like implementing what you learn. So that's huge to remember. So yeah, that's my reading habit, and kind of reading SOP, if you will.
And I just want to defend myself first, and I know I'm the one that volunteered that. I am a voracious learner.
Ooh,
and so I borrowed that from Joseph. He's New Englander.
He's got good words.
Yeah, he's got the best words.
He does.
I have always been somebody that I've always wanted to grow and get education and learn, and whether that's watching videos or learning from people side by side or whatever it is. But in terms of reading a book from beginning to end, that hasn't happened until this week, or until the last couple of weeks.
One thing that I was going to mention, and this is like, I don't know, take it for what it's worth, but it's obviously probably the majority of a bunch of dudes, watching this in the industry, right? And we all are sitting here going, when do I have time to read? How much Facebook do you read when you're taking a dump?
Oh man, you went there.
Why not? Right?
Yeah,
because it's all about real life, like applications. And if you take that time, I mean, I know it's crude, whatever it is, but I mean, hi, I'm Eric. Have you met me? But like take that time to read a book. Like you're on your phone, throw the book on, guarantee you get 10 pages done in that time. You know what I mean? And you actually accomplished something, and you weren't scrolling and seeing who's fighting, in the nearest, SVG page or, whatever. I don't know, but I
You
mean,
went there.
yeah, well, whatever. Everybody knows, like it's every page. It's just, that's the most popular one. So, but I don't know, just a little tip. Bunch of dudes, we all spend time in the bathroom, read a book and stop reading Facebook for 10 minutes.
And I will say, I know most of us spend a bunch of dashboard time.
Yeah.
You're driving around town from one place to the next. I was talking to a contractor about this week. I told him, I was like, grab this on Audible. I sent him like the Audible link, and he's like, yeah. He's like, they just charge so much. And it was like, I think it's like $20 or something on Audible or for the book. And it was like, I don't know how much he makes. He probably makes $250,000 a year or more. I was like, I promise this book will make you more than $20, and you can read it literally as you're driving around town. So stop with the excuses and just do it. So, I mean, really, that's what I've been buying, all the hard copies, and I'm going to keep those so I can reference them. And like Joseph said, highlight stuff and, really get into them. But I'm listening to everything that I can as well, just to make it easier on myself. We've got one of our episodes coming up with John Wood. He recommended a book. I agreed to it. I was like, all right, this is awesome. We're going to do it. And I found out it's a textbook. And I'm doing these every week. So I'm going to have to read a textbook written by a lawyer inside of a week.
I think you can fire him. You can fire him. Like, don't, like it's
your
show,
podcast,
man.
buddy.
Don't feel obligated.
I don't back down from a challenge. So
John's a smart guy.
I'll probably get nothing else done that entire week. But I'm sure that it'll be worth it.
Just don't ask Pate, because you'll end up reading like the autobiography of Nick Saban or something awful.
I do draw the line somewhere.
Okay.
Well, guys, anything else either of you wanted or any of you wanted to add?
I'll follow up your podcast too. And listening to the car, you can just replay. I've listened to it two, 3 times this last week, and at various points you're going to pick up different things, and more things are applicable. So it's an easy way to go back through it and really cover the book really, really well, and pick up a lot of stuff out of it that you can then implement. Just being more aware of it and having it in that dead space almost.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone in this network should be watching my podcast at least 2 or 3 times per week.
And reviewing it too.
Review it over and over again. Make sure taking notes, sharing it with everyone that you know. Guys, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. I appreciate you guys being on here so much. I appreciate, again, Eric, you recommending this book. If you don't have it, go get it. Again, next week is going to be Steve Patrick's Level the Playing Field. And along with Steve Patrick himself, the author, who many of us know, I'm going to have TJ Ware on the show, who is another public adjuster and very smart guy. So I'm looking forward to that one. You guys tune in, go to the events page on I think it's going to be good, and that is going to be more industry specific to what we're doing here. But go on the Restoration Referral System Facebook page, go to events, and RSVP for all those events so that you can get reminders of when they're happening, so you can watch them, you can ask questions. Like I said, we're going to wrap up the show, guys. Thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you next Thursday at 3 p.m. Central.
Thanks so much, Matt. Nice to meet you.
All right,
nice
bye.
to be here. Thanks.